Hi guys, what is up? Welcome back to my channel. And today I will be doing my January wrap-up of last month. This is actually my first wrap-up as becoming a YouTuber and a reader. So let's get into it. I did set a goal for myself to read at most 8 books. I didn't end up reaching that goal because there were like at least 5 days I think this month where I didn't read, and that's like 2 books for me. I ended up reading 6 months. What? I ended up reading 6 books this month, so let's talk about it. The first book of the year that I read was Assistant to the Villain by Hannah Nicole Mayer. This book was really good. It was super fast paced. I think it took me only like 2 or 3 days to read this book. I did rate it 4 stars only because it was really good, but it didn't have me, what's the word I'm looking for, like obsessed. Yeah, it didn't have me obsessed with wanting to know more. I really did love the banter and the love story that they were having with the 2 main characters. I also really liked the fact that they had a lot of side characters and added somewhat of a story for those characters, which I thought was really cool and interesting. It had me wanting more, but it didn't have me like, oh, I can't think of anything else. I think after a couple days I didn't really think about the book. The plot twist though in this book was really crazy and I was not expecting it. It was really good. I loved it. 4 stars. Yeah, I would definitely recommend it to anyone. The next book I read this month was actually a trilogy. A Good Girl's Guide to Murder by Holly Jackson. I really liked this book. I haven't read horror or thriller or murder mystery in a while, so I think this was actually my first murder mystery book, if I can recall all the books I've read. But it was really good. It was super fast paced. It was kind of really easy to get into. I really liked the fact that I was trying to figure out all of the different things that were going on. I loved the gradual obsession that was really starting to get to Pipe. I'm pretty sure that's how you say it. I would definitely recommend anyone the trilogy or this book in general. It was really good, especially for YA, so it was really easy to get into, and the text was pretty big, so we love that considering I'm blind. The next book I read was Good Girl, Bad Blood, which is the second book to the series or trilogy. And this book was a little slower. It wasn't very fast paced. It was harder for me to get into, but when I was reading it, I realized that I felt like I was reading pointless words, but at the same time I knew I was learning new information, if that makes sense. I don't know, someone goes missing in this book and it's someone close to her, so it's more personal, and she's trying to figure out all the things with the people that she knows, and it's like uncovering a lot of trauma and whatnot for certain people. And I did feel like the ending was kind of dragged out. There was like a point in time where she was going super in detailed about finding out or about someone dying, and I promise you, it was like 4 pages and it felt like 3 chapters. So it was good. I gave it 3 stars. I'm not really complaining. For the second book, it was still good. It definitely had me intrigued to read more, but it was like, I didn't really need to finish it, you know what I mean? It was to the point where I just wanted to finish the book than rather really enjoying it, if that makes sense. But that was only like the last 30, 40 pages, I want to say. Maybe less. I wanted to add this book just because I know I made a video about it. And if you watched that video, you would know. I did DNF the last book. I said maybe later on I'd go back to it, and maybe I will. For now, I'm just staying with not reading it. I did notice, wow, okay. I did notice after I had DNF'd this book, I was thinking about it like 3 days, 4 days later, just wondering how, you know, and I was only like 1:15 in, I think, and I do eventually want to get back to this book, but in general, I would definitely recommend the trilogy. You can't even, the trilogy a good girl's guide to anyone who's really trying to get into thriller or murder mystery. It was genuinely really good, and I gave the whole series, well, I gave the first book, 2 books as like a duology. I gave it 4 stars, and I'm sure eventually I'll end up making a video about all the books I DNF'd and why, or maybe even try to reread them. But for now, that's staying there. It was also the first DNF of the year, so kudos to this one. I also made it a thing to where I can only DNF 1 book a month, considering I'm new to reading and I really just want to try and push through as much books as I can to see if I like it, to see if maybe it's one of those books where the last 100 pages are crazy and the first 300 are just not. The next book I ended up reading was Collide by Bal Cabra. I think that's right. I really like this book because it was more than just romance. It's about this girl named Summer, and she's a sports psychology major. Yeah, she's in college. It's her last year, and she is majoring in sports psychology. She will literally do anything, any sport but hockey, which is why her professor assigned her hockey for this report that she has to do. It's a whole study, and the captain of the hockey team ended up taking the fault for his teammates about this party that they threw and ended up trashing the place. His name is Aiden, and there was a point in time where Summer was kind of repetitive and it was kind of annoying, but I feel like she grew out of that. It was only for like 2 chapters maybe. She was a little insufferable, but after a point in the book, you really understand why she's the way she is, and then she has a great and almost amazing character development. Aiden is so sweet. I love the way he talks. I just love his character. He's a perfect golden retriever that any person would love, and I really love the fact that it was more than just romance. It was also open and closed door. I'm not big on spicy scenes, and when it has like 1 or 2, I think that that's enough, and if it has more, it's just way too much. So it only had like 2 scenes, I think, and then the rest was closed door, so I thought that was really good, because it didn't feel like too much, and I like that. So definitely would recommend. Did I even say? This book is the kind of book I feel like I shouldn't give 5 stars, and yet I still did, just because I still think about Aiden and Summer and like their love story and some scenes, even like a couple days after reading it. That's why I wanted to give it 5 stars, and I did. I gave it 5 stars. So I feel like that really puts the difference on whether if it's a good book or not, depending on how I feel after reading. That's like a good, or that's a good 40% of the reason like why you should know what you're gonna start your book. After that, I did end up reading Divine Rivals by Rebecca Ross. This isn't actually the original copy that I had, because if you watched my mood reading video, you would know that the first copy that I had rips in the pages. Like the last, I promise you, it was like the last 15 pages, and almost every single one of them was ripped. And I was reading, and I was absolutely dumbfounded when I found out that they were ripped, and it just I didn't even know what to do. I returned it and I got a new one. So thank you, Amazon, because that was crazy. Oh wait, I didn't even talk about the book. I gave this book 4 stars because I thought it was really good. It took me a little while to get into, but after a while I was like, oh, I really see where the author is going with this. We're following Iris and Roman. They're rivals, academic rivals, because they're both going for the same position at this journalism, or this post, like the Tribune. Yeah, they're both going for this position at the Tribune, so they're like academic rivals, I want to say, but they're just genuinely rivals. And he fell first, of course. They are somehow connected with their typewriters, which gets explained why in the book. It was really good. I really loved the fact that even though she was starting to have feelings for Roman, she still went out and did what she was what she felt like doing in her heart, and she didn't change anything just because she liked him. In the end, I didn't really like the fact that she was kind of basing most of her thoughts around him, but it kind of makes sense why, because I'm not trying to spoil anything, but this book was really good. I wasn't obsessed with the characters. It was really good though. It was just the right amount. It was a short book. I think it was like 300 pages, something like that. Yeah, it was around 300, 400 pages. And it didn't make me like want to drop everything down and go and read the second book, even though I do have it. It was just really good for the moment. I'll probably read the second book this month. Who knows? I want to. The last book I did end up reading this month was To Kill a Mockingbird by Harper Lee. I was about 50% through, and then I listened to the audiobook on Spotify. It was narrated by Sissy Spacek, I think. She made it sound a lot more interesting than when it was of when I was reading. So kudos to her. I love that Spotify has audiobooks included with premium. I don't really listen to audiobooks just because sometimes I feel like it's cheating. And I love the physical copy of books and the feeling of actually going and reading a book. It was really interesting to have this book be the first audiobook that I did listen to. I gave it 3 stars. It is a classic, so a lot rides under it, but it also does feel like a school book, and I don't genuinely love reading books like that. But I do want to read at least one classic a month, so this was my classic. The last book I read, just because it was so hard to get into. We're following a second grader, well, first to third, literally those 3 years are in the span of this book, and it was, I don't know, I don't even know what to say. Like, it was okay. Like, it wasn't very memorable. I would give it 2.5 if I could. I probably would. The audiobook made it better. I wonder what it would be like if I listened to the audiobook from the beginning. 3 stars is, I think, where I stand. I'm very generous with my stars. I noticed that. So those are all the books I did end up reading in January. My 6 books plus my first DNF of the year. I did want to go over my TBR for February. I'm subscribed to Book of the Month, and if you don't know who they are, and you're a reader, you're crazy, but it's a subscription to where they generate a bunch of people's reviews and put the top reviews of almost every genre to then have it as a selection for the box that you get for that month. And in my box for February, I got Butcher and Blackbird by Brian Weaver. I'm pretty sure that's right. And I got Heartless Hunter by Kristen Cicerelli, which Heartless Hunter was a part of my February options. I was contemplating between Heartless Hunter and The Resort. I don't know who that's by. By Sarah. I don't even know how to say that last name. Book of the Month is not sponsored. I love their app, and I love the subscription that I have with them. And I highly recommend getting Book of the Month if you are a reader or just generally want to get into reading. It's a good way to have a subscription that gives you a book, a hardcover book for almost nothing. It's a way to read at least 1 book a month and also broaden your genres. If you really want to get into something new, at least you know that a bunch of people love that book that out of the options. And yeah. So those 2 books are in my TBR, Butcher and Blackbird and Heartless Hunter, which the first one is, I think it's a thriller romance, because I know the thing that's like cannibalism or whatever. If you've seen that on TikTok, I just know whoever said cannibalism, count me in. I don't even know, but I saw it on a TikTok and I thought that was hilarious, so I needed to buy that book. And then the second one is a fantasy romance, because fantasy is the main reason why I love reading, and I will always choose fantasy over anything else. Another book I do want to read is Ruthless Vows, because it's the second book to *The Divine Rivals, and I've been really wanting to read it because the cliffhanger is starting to get to me. I do want to read It Ends With Us by Colleen Hoover because I want to jump into my Colleen Hoover phase and my canon event with her. I know she's a really popular author and I want to see if I can understand why. I do have this other book. The other book that's on my TBR is Spring Snow. Another book I do want to read this month is The Long Game by Elena Armas. I read The Spanish Love Deception by her and I absolutely loved it. I devoured it in like a day. So I wanted to read The Long Game by her. So that's pretty much a little bit of my TBR for February and my January wrap up. If you enjoyed watching this video, don't forget to like, comment, subscribe. I'll see you guys in the next one. My foot fell asleep.